How vast and overwhelming the talk show set would look from the perspective of a palm-sized stuffed doll. How everything could appear unnaturally massive. And what kind of pressure it would bring to be unable to blink or even struggle. If the eerie host, with a television in place of a head, loomed over me, casting a massive shadow. And when that voice, so vividly real, echoed,
"Now then, let us welcome today's guest!"
the vibrations rattled through my stuffing like an earthquake. The vintage stage lights flickered as the door swung open. A grotesque ghost story, one I had personally suggested in a meeting, calling it a fantastic idea, stepped onto the stage and took its seat. Or rather, the staff carried it in and propped it up in the guest's seat. Because it was merely a vaguely human-shaped figure made of wooden sticks. The Crimson Scarecrow. Its head was wrapped in cloth, crudely scrawled with facial features in red marker. Eyes, nose, and mouth, drawn with careless slashing strokes. The rain had smudged the markings, making it appear even more nightmarish. A monster said to lurk in a cornfield the size of a city, luring people in until they lost their way. Then, once night fell, hunting them down one by one until they vanished. An entity derived from a famous American horror story, turned into an entry into the something. It had fit perfectly with the tone of the show, which was why I had recommended it. And now it sat right there. I could feel a swell of nausea rising, but there was nothing inside me. Because I'm a stuffed doll, I had no mouth, no stomach, no organs.
"You've made quite the journey to be here today! Now then!"
The host stepped closer to the guest, and the suffocating weight of his presence over me lightened slightly. The scarecrow, of course, did not respond. Its vandalized face continued staring blankly into space, but the host carried the interview effortlessly.
"Oh! I hear that the most recent incident involved a group of bank robbers escaping into a cornfield! How thrilling!"
A chilling tale unfolded, how a group of robbers, fleeing the police, had hidden in a cornfield, only to encounter the Crimson Scarecrow and meet a gruesome fate. By morning, the criminals' entrails had become nothing more than fertilizer for the corn and the stuffing for the scarecrow itself. A thrilling, action-packed exploration record, laced with humor and suspense, while keeping the ethical discomfort to a minimum.
Wow, that's seriously creepy.
The audience gasped, startled, and entertained in equal measure, unable to suppress their laughter even as the horror unfolded before them. It was as if, as long as everyone laughed together, even the most terrible things could be seen as fun. Even as the interview veered toward increasingly disturbing stories of innocent victims, the audience only cheered louder, exhilarated by the thrill. They're contaminated. These people, slowly, bit by bit, were becoming contaminated just by watching the talk show. And maybe, just maybe, I too had become contaminated the longer I worked on this talk show.
What an exciting story, don't you all agree? Let's give a round of applause for our guest, stepping beyond the cornfield and into the public eye for the very first time!
The eerie scarecrow, still nothing more than a red-marked sack, sat motionless, and yet somehow it now seemed as if its eyes were truly looking at the audience.
Now then, it's time to move on to our next segment. Oh, that's right! We introduced this new corner last episode, didn't we? Do you all remember, dear viewers? Unfortunately, my friend wasn't originally scheduled to appear today, so he couldn't come in his usual form. But with his burning passion, he's returned in a brand new appearance!
Dangling in mid-air, my small stuffed limbs swayed as his gloved hands made me wave my arms and nod my head. "Here is my dear friend." The audience erupted into laughter, pointing at me, clapping and cheering. He lifted me like a puppet and began speaking for me, like a ventriloquist.
"Now what's that, my friend? Aha! For the next 100 seconds, we'll ask some questions! Audience, please respond!"
The host mimicked my speech patterns and intonation with eerie accuracy. My stuffed arm waved toward the audience. People laughed. I was terrified by how easy it was to get swept up in the excitement.
"Now, shall we hear what my friend wants to ask?"
The TV screen tilted toward me, as if expectantly, because a stuffed doll has no mouth, and my thoughts would be transmitted with perfect clarity, just like when I had been able to hear the voice of the good friend.
Aha! My friend is feeling a little nervous. But here we go, the first question! Oh, how bold! If you could redraw the Crimson Scarecrow's face, what would you draw? Cute! Oh, what a wonderful answer. Don't you think so, my friend? Of course, Braun!
I kept resisting his words. But the host, as if completely unaffected, continued his ventriloquism effortlessly, making the doll move as though I were enthusiastically responding. And so the 100 seconds passed.
Ha ha ha! Thank you! That was the Bronze Friend segment! Now, it's time to welcome our next guest. But first, we'll be right back after these messages!
The stage lights went dark.
How dare you disrupt a live broadcast!
My entire body froze. The enormous TV-headed figure leaned down and whispered,
This is unacceptable. Mr. Soleum, have you started thinking with straw instead of a brain, just like the Scarecrow? Did you really try to ruin my show?
A gloved hand pressed down on my head. My head, my entire being, was crushed beneath the pressure, as if my thoughts were dissolving into nothingness.
Heavens, this is unforgivable. As your good friend, I have done nothing but help you. Dear, you're trying to sabotage this talk show right now. Your own workplace, no less! Absolutely unacceptable!
There's something I can't accept either. The audience members. They went missing. They died. Even as my vision blurred from the pressure of the gloved hand, I kept thinking. After the show ended, you sent them thank you letters, and inside, you included instructions on how to meet the guests. You did that because it made for great entertainment when the guests returned with more gruesome stories, didn't you?
No, that's not the issue here. Friend, there seems to be a misunderstanding.
The pressure on my head eased. Instead, the gloved hand smoothed out my stuffing, gently restoring my shape.
Mr. Dear, my show never forces anything! If someone watches a horror movie and is inspired to commit murder, is that the movie's fault?
The TV screen displayed a crying emoticon.
Why must my show prioritize anything other than joy, thrills, and excitement?
I'm not trying to convince you, so don't try to convince me. I don't want to create, participate in, or be a part of a talk show that murders people and burns them to ash. The hand lifted away from my head.
In that case, from now on, I suppose you'll just be treated as a lowly backstage staff member.
It felt as if my blood had frozen. You don't have the right. I never signed the employment contract. Everything had been verbal. The contract was only scheduled to be signed sometime soon. And you said it yourself, that if I wasn't enjoying it, you'd let me go. I stared at the blank screen of the vintage TV with unblinking eyes. So let me go. I'm scared and I'm not enjoying this. The vintage TV remained still.
I'm not interested in listening to your persuasion or arguments. Just send me away, right now.
Braun placed me back onto the desk, and then his voice softened into something almost sorrowful.
I just don't understand. Think about it, Mr. Dear. Why would you leave behind something fulfilling and enjoyable, only to return to a life of misery? Was there something you didn't like about our show's working conditions? No show in the world is perfectly ethical, Mr. Dear. You know that. Perhaps your conscience is merely an excuse. Could it be that deep down, you were simply dissatisfied with your role as staff? How about a change of residence? Or perhaps a stronger, more magnificent form, one that better suits the show.
I already told you. I won't listen to any of your persuasion.
I'd be trapped if I wasn't careful. I was a doll now. I didn't even have my silver ring. I couldn't afford to let him convince me.
I'm quitting. That's it. This conversation is over.
The TV-headed figure pulled back.
I see what your misunderstanding is. But as your friend, it's only right for me to grant your wishes.
His gloved fingers gestured to the staff, as if instructing them to remove me.
You are fired! Go ahead, leave this wonderful studio behind and return to your pathetic, dull life. However, there will no longer be a good friend waiting for you. Remember that. Now, once today's show ends, you can go wherever you please. That is, of course,
His voice turned mocking.
if you can go anywhere at all in that stuffed body of yours.
You're the one who put me in this form. Change me back.
Oh? And why should I do that? How laughable, Mr. Kim Soleum. You've done nothing but act selfishly, saying whatever you please without taking responsibility for this show. And yet, when you refuse to listen to my persuasions, now you are trying to persuade me. How very shameless. But I suppose that, too, is a form of entertainment. One of the best kinds, in fact. The joy of watching someone get punished.
The staff didn't place me back on the desk. Instead, they tossed me onto the small table beside the guest's chair, a precarious spot, dangerously close to the edge, as if I might tumble into the trash bin below.
Oh, and look at that! The cameras are turning back on!
Braun's voice shifted instantly, bright and cheerful again, a perfect fit for the talk show.
Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the show. Think carefully because this is your last chance. Will you choose punishment or...
A thin, strange noise rang out before me, accompanied by a flash of light. Something entered my field of vision. A pin-thin hole had been punctured in the studio's ceiling, and from above, an eerie, unnaturally blue light shone down upon me. More holes appeared in rapid succession. Stuffing burst from my body. Was this the sacred fire bombardment? If I died in this form, would I just die as a stuffed toy? I felt a hand grip my plush body. He was likely trying to stop my stuffing from spilling out. But the relentless barrage of precision strikes targeting my ragdoll body refused to stop. My head was severed from my body, and it fell to the ground. The ceiling collapsed. A rain of transparent, glowing projectiles crashed down onto the talk show stage like a meteor shower, destroying the entire set. In my tumbling field of vision, I caught sight of the host, standing frozen, gripping the tattered remains of what had once been my fabric body and stuffing. Just like how I had been momentarily shaken when my good friend was torn in two. I regained consciousness in the void once again, where nothing could be felt. Through the CCTV-like vision before me, I could see that Lee Jae-yun was still on the move. The only difference now was that the studio in his field of vision was shaking violently, as if it had been struck by a bomb.
The sacred fire bombardment has commenced.
Because you shot me with it. Did you deliberately target the stuffed doll I was in, to force me back into this body?
The bombardment will continue for another 10 minutes, but the current situation remains high risk. You must escape this location as quickly as possible, preferably within the next 3 minutes.
Can't the host just force me back into a doll again?
However, that darkness is an extreme phenomenon devoid of balance. As a supernatural entity fixated on its talk show, the host will likely prioritize restoring the studio and eliminating the cause of its destruction before anything else.
Lee Jae-hyun was moving at an insane speed, his tone utterly dry as he spoke of something so chilling. Then, just as emotionlessly, he made another statement.
Additionally, access to a safe house has been approved. The coalition has acknowledged that the current situation prevents the emergency call user from escaping. Therefore, Supervisor Kim Soleum, you can now be transported to a location where you will be safe from pursuit by supernatural entities.
I don't know what this coalition is, but it's probably some kind of alien organization.
Given the circumstances, the only way to prevent further complications is to leave this studio immediately and relocate to the safe house.
So, I could escape the host's pursuit for a while. That meant I'd have time to reassess my situation and maybe find a way to completely sever his ties to me through the something unknown. Through the CCTV-like vision, I watched Chief Lizard sprint down the violently shaking hallway of the studio amidst the deafening explosions.
Have you found the exit?
While infiltrating the studio again to locate your summoned consciousness, I re-verified the escape route.
It felt as if I really could escape. Whether it was through the Delusion Home Shopping or somewhere else, I might be able to make it to that safe house they approved, and at least buy myself some time. It was a tempting solution, but it was nothing more than a temporary fix. This is an extreme and hostile method of escape. If I left something unknown, it felt like I'd be making an irreversible choice against the host. The host. Or rather, Braun might just be able to find me again. This escape wasn't a solution. It was just a delayed confrontation. And more importantly, I recalled the moment just before I was wrenched away from the stuffed doll. The sight of the host desperately trying to hold my plush body together as it was being torn apart.
Are you the type of sentient being that gets easily contaminated by darkness? If I die in this body, will you simply return to being Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun?
If you die within 55 hours, yes.
Don't head for the exit. Go to the host instead.
If this was a gamble anyway, I'd take a direct approach.
I'm going to try a different way out.
Kim Soleum's body sprinted through the maze-like, chaotic corridors of the studio. The narrow indoor space shook with a deafening roar. Yet Lee Jae-hyun traversed it at an impossible speed once again. Even the original owner of the body, watching through the CCTV-like perspective, held his breath, his hands sweating from the sheer velocity and audacity of the movements. A pair of double doors came into view, marked with a sign. A vast studio set stretched out beyond, so massive that its sheer scale was overwhelming. However, at the center where the main talk show stage should have been, it no longer seemed functional. The once glittering ceiling lights had already half collapsed. Shattered lighting fixtures, twisted metal beams, and dust covered the stage furniture and floor in a chaotic mess. Even now, through the gaps in the destruction, the sacred fire bombardment continued to rain down. The audience was murmuring in confusion. Trapped in their seats, they had initially found this entire disaster entertaining due to their contamination, but soon they would start screaming for their lives. Kim Soleum swallowed back a sigh. The live broadcast is completely ruined. The remnants of a shattered variety show lay before them. At the heart of the half-destroyed stage, a lone entertainer stood.
You came of your own accord!
Even as the stage was reduced to rubble, even as the sacred fire bombardment fell like meteors, he merely leaned against his desk, illuminated by the very destruction raining down upon him. He already knew exactly who had dared to break the set. Yet, he did not scream in rage. He simply stood there, gazing silently at the intruder who had stormed onto the stage. And it was as if he already understood that the one moving inside that body was not his friend, but the mercenary summoned through the emergency beacon. For a moment, Kim Soleum felt as if his eyes had locked with the hosts through the screen. From here on out, something completely absurd might just happen. The host raised his hand, as if he were still hosting the talk show, as if the program was still going on.
I am delighted to introduce the mastermind behind this catastrophe!
One of the few remaining spotlights suddenly illuminated Kim Soleum.
The one who destroyed the talk show set and caused chaos during the live broadcast. Oh my! How shocking! It's a member of an audience from the previous episode! Please welcome him with applause! Ah, boos are an acceptable choice as well!
He had immediately recognized Lee Jae-hyun for who he was.
A villain who has committed such an atrocious crime must face a proper challenge, appropriate hardships and trials, and of course, punishment!
The stage grew darker and darker.
Ah, yes. In the medieval era, executions were a public festival, weren't they? Of course, our talk show wouldn't do something as boring as a hanging. Tonight, we introduce a surprise new segment. It's called...
The host's silhouette raised both hands in the shadows, and his shadow began to grow, and larger still, until his shadow completely covered the wall behind him. The surrounding set walls vanished into darkness. On the seemingly floating stage, a massive spherical TV head began descending. A colossal CRT television as big as the entire stage itself crashed down, crushing the guest entrance beneath it. The host's gloved hand, now gigantic, rested beneath the massive TV as if propping up his chin, while the other hand pointed directly at Kim Soleum as if firing a gun.
A breathtaking performance! A dizzying thrill! Terrifyingly fun and deliciously thrilling! Punishment acrobatics!
On the TV screen, a dazzling flashing neon sign lit up with dozens of light bulbs. The host's gloved knuckles rapped against the ruined set, like a countdown to the show's next act. The sound of drums, like the prelude to a circus stunt. He won't try to kill me immediately. Lee Jae-hyun lifted his gaze, listening to the words of the body's original owner. It's still a live broadcast.
And now, the show begins!
Kim Soleum's silhouette was swallowed whole. The old-fashioned CRT TV lifted its head once more. Inside its screen, Kim Soleum's trapped figure was visible. The audience, thrilled by the spectacle, erupted into applause at this fascinating illusion.
Shall we take a look at his skills?
The stage lights flickered. Inside the TV, a horde of teddy bear-shaped monsters bared their fangs and lunged toward Kim Soleum, attempting to peel away his skin, just as they had done to the neglectful owner of the past. But Kim Soleum's body exhibited such unnatural strength, and he pried open the bear's maws, forcing them to bite into each other instead. The TV's background shifted, forming a new setting. From the sewer grates, grotesque arms burst forth. Kim Soleum stomped on them, then swung onto a street lamp like an acrobat, narrowly avoiding the elongated skeletal hands that clawed toward him. Every challenge mirrored a past guest that Kim Soleum himself had once suggested for the show. Merciless and absurd, each punishment pushed him closer and closer to a dead end. But Kim Soleum survived them all. His left arm was fractured, his forehead was split open. Yet, as long as he wasn't caught, the punishment wouldn't end. As the punishment numbers increased, they grew even more brutal and horrifying. Punishment 3, Punishment 4, Punishment 5. Kim Soleum barely escaped a gourmet restaurant that specialized in cooking sentient beings, dodging the chef's cleaver, at the cost of losing a few strands of hair.
The Crimson Scarecrow.
From the thickly grown stalks and leaves, a twisted, multi-limbed creature slithered, chasing Kim Soleum like a centipede. But the one controlling Kim Soleum's body was a named character from the field exploration team, Employee D. Dodging like an acrobat, he counterattacked, and with a flash of the blood-sucking knife, 3 or 4 scarecrow limbs were severed. The audience gasped in awe. However, it was only a matter of time. In a ghost story about a monster in a cornfield, one could never win by brute force. His already wounded body had limits. So this punishment was designed for me to die. Waited for the moment, just as the scarecrow lunged to pounce. Following Kim Soleum's advice, Lee Jae-hyun abruptly turned at a sharp angle, and then sprinted at full speed, towards the TV screen.
He's getting bigger.
He jumped straight out of the TV. Kim Soleum's body rolled onto the floor, and Lee Jae-hyun landed in a controlled breakfall. The audience went wild.
Unbelievable! My goodness.
For a moment, the host himself seemed to forget his anger. What mattered now was that the show had reached new heights. As if the only thing that mattered in the world was that a good show could be completed. A smiling emoticon flashed on the massive vintage television screen with the accompaniment of a showman's bright voice.
To clear 6 punishments! That was absolutely thrilling! A breathtaking edge-of-your-seat spectacle! Ah, truly delightful! Everyone, did you enjoy it?
The audience erupted in cheers. The host, speaking in a velvety, smooth voice from within the colossal TV, responded.
Get back in and take the 7th punishment!
The TV screen loomed closer once more.
The audience's cheers were sweet, weren't they? You must repay their enthusiasm! Oh, we can't possibly end it now! Look how much they love it! Keep going! Keep going!
From the rubble, an anonymous, faceless crew member barely managed to retrieve a sketchbook and held it up from below the stage.
Oh, would you look at that? It's time for a commercial break.
The audience groaned in disappointment.
Haha, as much as I regret it, we must wrap up this surprise segment here. But don't worry, an extravagant finale awaits you all! And of course, this brief commercial break will only heighten your anticipation!
With a smiling emoticon on its screen, the TV head made a bow to his audience.
Yes! When the cameras turn off, when the audience's eyes are gone, when the stage lights go dark!
The host addressed Kim Soleum's figure.
Who can say what wonderful things might happen to a guest after their segment ends? We'll be back shortly!
The camera lights went out. Yet, the crew members did not come up to clear the half-destroyed stage. In the darkness, with the murmuring voices of the audience still vividly present, the host raised his hand. He fixed his gaze upon the now useless guest of a finished segment, upon the reckless fool who dared destroy his set and break his dear friend. And then the giant gloved fingers slowly pressed together, about to produce a chilling snap.
Did you incinerate my stuffed body?
Ah, so we're back to that topic. Did you come crawling back to ask for help? How shameless! Then again, shamelessness is a virtue in show business!
Lee Jae-hyun, still piloting Kim Soleum's body, calmly recited his words.
I just had a question.
The emoticon disappeared from the TV screen. Kim Soleum was certain. Braun couldn't read his thoughts right now, because the one speaking directly to Braun was Lee Jae-hyun. Just as reading a script aloud doesn't mean knowing the playwright's full intent, Braun had no way of deciphering the true mind behind the words. And the same applied to Kim Soleum. Because I'm not really here. He was seeing and hearing everything indirectly. In persuasion, context and atmosphere play a crucial role. But right now, all information was being filtered solely through words and visuals. Without the full sensory experience, he could withstand the persuasion of the great host. That meant, for the first time, they could have a real conversation. A genuine conversation. One where neither party could see into the other's mind. Where they would have to listen, interpret, and truly engage.
Will you hear me out? I think you won't be expecting this question.
Bluffing can sometimes have its uses on stage, but such tactics only work on amateurs, not on a true entertainer.
The master of this talk show creepypasta fixed his unseen gaze upon him.
Do you really believe that reciting tired old scripts, common ghost stories, or dull platitudes will be enough to move me?
That's not it. It's just a personal question.
A personal question!
Kim Soleum's lips moved.
Was it frustrating being a good friend?
A performer who finds their given role suffocating does not deserve to be on stage. In that sense, this brawn has never once felt confined by masks.
I see. Because when I was a stuffed doll, I felt pretty trapped and scared. I was just wondering if you ever felt the same way.
Oh, forming empathy and connection? Predictable. And oh, how boring! Go ahead, waste your breath trying to justify why I shouldn't incinerate you and that grunt right here and now, before the commercials end!
He knew. If he simply ran away now, he would inevitably face an even worse end in the future. Still, putting all his bets on this gamble remained an option to him. But to Kim Soleum, a gamble was only worth taking if there's a real chance of success. And he had his reasons for taking this bet. This was the possibility he was holding on to.
Then, did being a good friend make you happy?
What a strange line of questioning! Was I happy, you ask? Yes! Of course, I am an entertainer who enjoys every role!
So, being a good friend wasn't particularly more enjoyable than any other role? Not even a little?
The body controlled by Lee Jae-hyun remained completely still. Then the giant TV screen lit up.
Ah, I see what you're trying to say. Is it that you wish for me to become that warm-hearted stuffed toy and become your good friend once more? Ha 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 ha! To keep playing the happy little role of the good friend?
Inside the giant TV, a rabbit plushie appeared, waving its hand. Just like a certain moment from a month ago.
That would be nice. I miss it.
Oh, Mr. Kim Soleum.
The TV spoke in an exaggeratedly cheerful tone, almost mockingly. On screen, the rabbit plushie looked around nervously before curling up in a corner.
Unfortunately, that good friend has already been torn apart and reduced to ashes! You'll never see it again!
The plush body was just an external appearance.
In the end, the one who willingly accepted the constraints of being a good friend and moved within that plush body was the host standing right in front of him right here and now. Even now, displaying that rabbit plushie on the screen, he was the one speaking about it himself.
I've heard something before.
Kim Soleum's calm voice filled the space.
When actors play deeply memorable roles, even after the performance ends, sometimes they struggle to fully leave the character behind. If the role was fun or immersive enough, traces of it remain even after it's over.
He recalled what he had seen earlier, the host freezing when Kim Soleum's plush body was torn apart. Honestly, he should have known that I wouldn't actually die just because the plushie was destroyed. After all, wasn't he the one who put me inside it? Going further, it was odd for a talk show host to allow silence to linger on his show just because a guest had died. A being like him should have simply displayed a crying emoticon on the TV screen, pretended to mourn for a moment, then turned it into material for the next segment. Yet, if he had been startled enough to try and hold the stuffing together, that was definitely strange.
I wondered if the same applied to you.
Oh, you mean to say that this great host who brought that role to life was affected by a mere mask he wore for a few months? You think my professionalism is that lacking?
I don't see why doing such a thing would mean you were lacking in any way. Even great actors sometimes struggle to separate from their roles. That just means they were deeply immersed. It's true, isn't it?
Lee Jae-hyun continued to recite Kim Soleum's words in a detached tone.
And in a slightly different way, I also found a lot of comfort in you being my good friend. I appreciate it. Really, thank you. In difficult times, having you as a friend really helped and reassured me. And there were a lot of fun moments, too. Didn't you feel the same?
How embarrassing, but I suppose I must admit it. Yes! It was a truly fresh and enjoyable experience! It's rare to find someone with such natural talent as both a creator and a performer. Watching and meddling in your journey was an utterly unique delight!
That's exactly why I don't want to work at this talk show anymore. For one, this talk show scares me. It's not that I didn't find it entertaining, but honestly, it's difficult for me to work here. You know that, my personality.
Just the thought of people dying sent chills down his spine. The idea of contributing to that in any way was horrifying, and Kim Soleum understood something else. Even if I try to convince him, would he, the host, suddenly start making ethical decisions? Just as Kim Soleum, being who he was, would always reject working as a crew member here, the host would never suddenly develop moral scruples. And the more terrifying possibility, if he lost that sense of rejection entirely, if he no longer felt any aversion to this place, that would mean something far worse. Whether it was brainwashing or contamination, it would mean the erasure of his own identity.
To be honest, even if you called me a partner, this whole thing was one-sided. I was basically forced into your crew. The atmosphere even made me start calling you Mr. Host out of habit.
A joking remark with an undeniable edge of truth.
In that state, we can't stay friends. I'll be your subordinate if things stay like that. I wouldn't be acting of my own will anymore.
Kim Soleum looked beyond his own vision.
And when that happens, you'll get bored of me pretty fast. So, I have to go back. It'll be much more fun for you that way, too.
A strange gleam passed over the surface of the TV. Kim Soleum speculated that perhaps this was why the host had wanted to keep him working at the talk show, keeping him as intact as possible without changing his way of thinking too drastically. Like a steady drizzle slowly soaking someone through. It almost worked to some extent, but not. He couldn't stay in this creepy place forever.
That doesn't mean we can't be friends. Do you remember what I said before? Friends try to understand each other's differences, and even when they can't, they still care for one another. By talking things through. We don't have to work at the same place to share our lives and stay friends.
Since the bridge had already been burned, it was time to rebuild it in a different way with this entity he had summoned. If you can't avoid it, just face it.
You don't have to be a good friend. Just a friend is fine.
Inside the TV, the plush rabbit seemed to lean toward the screen as if listening intently. Kim Soleum almost wanted to smile.
If you're okay with it, how about we try that?